Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com. You can find cool stuff in stock every day, and check out our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. And finally, check out our Altar Sleeves. Support the show by using the code MAGICMICS at checkout for 5% off anything in the store, including a set of exclusive sleeves featuring the Magic Mics crew at AltarSleeves.com/MagicMics. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
How's it going?
Ruben Bressler.
Hi, good morning, apparently, for me. I had a nap today. So
from the better late than never.
My bad. Yeah, better late than never, exactly.
I will take it. We have a show, ladies and gentlemen.
I will try to make up for it during this program.
Okay, I need max charisma. All right, buddy? Max.
That is one of my highest stats in Dungeons & Dragons.
There you go. Well, we kick it off with our first pick and giveaway. Get your chance at a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com by typing !raffle in the chat. But subscribe first to get 2 chances to win. And don't forget our raid at the end of the show to support a member of the community. Enter your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we might raid tonight. But the first pick for this week has to be, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. We are full-blown D&D in it. Now, the show got started a little late, so I'm going to have to catch up with some of these links or whatever. But what we got to learn today was the Adventures and the Forgotten Realms mechanics, including dungeons. Now, while I get this on the screen, you guys tell me how you feel about the dungeons.
It's very weird.
Ruben, you're the guy. If you don't like them, no one likes them.
Look, here's the deal. I think that flavorfully and conceptually it makes sense. However, Dungeons and Dragons... Magic the Gathering's always been a game where you needed like a couple of things, but you didn't need like a whole board game setup. You didn't need to pack a bunch of extraneous garbage. You have your deck and you're ready to go. Now, adding stuff like this where you need to keep it separated and not shuffle it in, you keep it with your tokens, I guess. It's also not exactly clear to me how these are registered for competitive play, if these will be available of like, oh, I played a dungeon card but I didn't bring a dungeon. Are they like judges now have to walk around with token dungeons now? It's very strange and is a weird nebulous state for me. From a conceptual flavor standpoint, great, awesome. From a execution standpoint, this feels like contraptions from Unstable to me, which was great. It was a great mechanic in Limited, and we never had to deal with it in Constructed. And I don't think it would have worked well in Constructed, because you have this whole other separate thing you're keeping track of. I don't know. I will reserve judgment. I hope for the best, but yeah, I'm not... It's weird.
Now, as I understand it, these are the only dungeons in the set, and these are being included in every bundle. So my guess is there's going to be a ton of these around at any time. As I understand it, they don't take up sideboard slots. They can just come in out of the game and go from there. As you can see, the 3 here now, Ruben, these are the big 3 D&D dungeons.
These are 3 of the most famous dungeons in 5th edition especially. These are all Forgotten Realms dungeons. The Lost Mines of Fandolver is probably the most played module that D&D's ever created. This is the starter adventure where you start in a little town and there's the goblins have taken over a castle and there's a dragon with a horde. It's the classic. If you're getting started with D&D, you play Lost Mines. Then there's the Tomb of Annihilation, which features the Tomb of Horrors. A Sararak, the Lich King, is in it. This is the classic Gary Gygax module that he brought to the second Gen Con, where Dungeons & Dragons premiered, and this was back when people were war game, min-max, killing it kind of thing, and he was like, all right, you serious people, I'm gonna kill you all. And legend has it that only 2 parties out of the 65 or so that ran through the module had any members survive and complete the dungeon.
Wow.
And then the Dungeon of the Mad Mage is Halaster Blackcloak. His dungeon lies underneath of Waterdeep, which is essentially magical New York City. His tower, Blackstaff Tower, used to tower over the land where Waterdeep now is, although now it's the Yawning Portal, which is, it's sort of like a reverse, photo negative, and it's like a well down into the Mad Mage's tower, and and Hallister has gone crazy. He's the Mad Mage, and there's like 25 dungeon levels of all crazy garbage down there. And yeah, these are the 3 biggest dungeons in the history of D&D.
I mean, you can tell there's more to do in the Dungeon of the Mad Mage than any of the other ones.
It's its own book. Like, you go through Lost Mines of Fandolver as a D&D player, it's levels 1 to 5. Mm-hmm. You go to the Tomb of Annihilation, it's probably 1 to 10. Dungeon of the Mad Mage is levels 5 to 20. Which is insane. They've never made a level 20 adventure published for 5th edition. It's enormous. It is an entire campaign's worth of dungeon, of rooms, of escape rooms you can go through.
Wow. All right. So, again, as we mentioned, dungeons don't go in your deck. They start outside the game and end up in the command zone for a while. That's kind of the official place where they live when they're going off here. But they have some examples here of ways to trigger to venture into the dungeon, such as Nadar, Selfless Paladin. This is a white and 2 generic mana for a 3/3 rare legendary Dragon Knight with Vigilance. And whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, venture into the dungeon. Enter the first room or advance to the next room, and other creatures you control get +1/+1 as long as you've completed a dungeon. So, Aaron, you ready to complete some dungeons and make some stuff happen?
Yeah, what do you think, Aaron?
Aaron,
I don't like them.
Any of this? No?
Yeah.
I don't play D&D. I think they're busy. I think they're too much work. No.
So they are very busy. It's a bunch of extra stuff you have to keep track of. How did you play? You played on a ton of Unstable Draft, right?
I loved Unstable, but I also didn't like them. To this day, I still can't really tell you what Contraptions did. Like, every time I played with them, it was always just like, oh, okay. Like, I never was quite confident what I was doing. And because it was such a
crank the wheel or whatever.
Right? And because it was such a casual format, you're playing with your friends around the kitchen table. No one really like held me to it or anything. So it was just like, I think this is what this does, but this is a lot. Like,
it is a lot. It is
a lot.
I am gonna be very. Listen. I am kind of happy in this small set case that I'm not gonna have to see someone venturing into the dungeon at the finals of a Pro Tour. Because that's like an anachronism in my head of like, and we're playing for $500,000 up top. I venture into the dungeon feels a little. I mean, again, this is me being a Spike Grognard.
I think
it's
a little gatekeepery.
Awesome. I get it.
I don't know about y'all. That sounds cool.
It sounds like great gameplay. Because they have these little minute effects. It's sort of like
Are
miniature.
we really ready for every coverage person to become a DM though? Like, so and so goes into the thing. No.
It's just gonna. First of all, it's just gonna be Tim Willoughby. Right? Like, it's just going to be the pleasing baritone.
Tim Willoughby! I mean, he could read me the comprehensive rules and I'd be happy.
That pleasing baritone.
Tell us we're naughty, Tim!
Oh my God.
So, but you're right. It is a little... And I don't know how this is going to be so strange on Arena and Magic Online.
Yeah.
What in the world?
I hope they make it super flavorful. I hope there's images of dungeons and stuff as you move through. I hope when you complete the dungeon, there's a thing that happens.
It animates, yeah.
You won't get any of that on Magic Online. You're lucky if it'll work at all. But quite frankly, I mean, the rest of it feels like, if these are our dungeons, this is what we get. They're going to interact with them very parasitically, essentially. Nothing else is going to venture into the dungeon except these cards. There's it feels sort of Ikoria-esque. Mutate was very parasitic, and you mutated while you mutate, and that's just what you did in that set. And it's a little bit constructed here and there, but mostly you mutated in limited in Ikoria.
Sure,
feels like you're going to be venturing a lot in D&D event, limited.
I can't imagine that the play testing that is going to be required to test a venture into the dungeon deck. Like, it's all like little effects, small incremental value, and it's just an insanely complicated, like, it's a Titan that has module effects on it, right? Is what this 3/3 is. It's I think this is very complicated.
I mean, but the more
it's like a charm on a 3/3,
right? But the more they've gotten into complicated Magic, the better Magic has done, quite frankly.
Sure.
So, I mean, Sure, but the other part of it is there's no judgment. Right. There's no like there's no dungeon sort of waiting out there for us to figure out or find or be spoiled later. They're just like, these are your 3 dungeons. You're going to have lots of copies of them. Their copies are going to be available at events because we're including it in apparently everything. So that just is what that is.
I did have the same reaction that I'm having now to Transform. So it's possible. Because it was like, that's not a Magic card. What are these flip cards? This could be very bad, actively ruin the game. I'll reserve judgment. Turns out flip cards are great. I think that this is a similar case. I'm willing to let it play out and give it a shot.
Right. So,
to be clear, I don't think it's anything like, I don't think it's going to ruin Magic. I have no problem with other people liking it. To be clear, it just doesn't do anything for me. So if you like it, I love it.
Sure, and that's cool. So I think it's neat in that, clearly they tried to power down's not the right word. They kind of balance it, right? They don't want anything to go crazy. They don't want venturing into the dungeon to be the best thing you can ever do, but they also want to make it interesting enough that it has gameplay and options that makes some sense. It does have stuff like Gloomstalker here, which is just a common. It's a white and 2 generic mana 2/3. So a 3 mana 2/3 that says as long as you've completed a dungeon, it gets double strike. And so whenever you've completed one, doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be there to see it. It's like if you've done it, you've done it, and you have the cool bonus. It gives you a reason to want venture cards and to do venture stuff, which is cool. They said there's lots of dragons, but there's no dragon mechanics, so that's cool too. Or
that's
ampersands.
Fine. I mean,
the ampersands.
It's adorable. Isn't it?
Tayback has way too much fun writing these rules articles, and I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Who doesn't love a good ampersand?
All right, I'm telling you. So some of the other cards that got spoiled. Now, Eliwick Tumblestrum. We got to talk about the Planeswalker if we talk about nothing else. Yeah. Eliwick Tumblestrum looks to be a legendary bard. It doesn't have the word bard on it, but if there are no bards in the D&D set, I will riot. There will. Riots in the streets, blood will flow. Eliwick Tumblestrum. There's
gotta be bards. I mean,
I just hope so. Look.
If they're giving us dungeons.
Anyway, Eliwick Tumblestrum here is 2 green, 2 generic mana for a 4 loyalty legendary planeswalker Eliwick. It's a mythic, of course. It has +1 venture into the dungeon. Ooh. Now, that doesn't necessarily protect herself unless part of the dungeon crawling makes a thing.
Right.
One of them does make a goblin token at one point in time. Maybe it makes some other stuff. -2, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. If it's legendary, you gain 3 life. You put the rest on the bottom in a random order. -7, you get an emblem with, quote, creatures you control have trample and haste and get +2/+2 for each differently named dungeon you've completed.
Interesting. Okay.
So
sure, we need if you're going to have a dungeon planeswalker, you need to juice it, right? This is a pretty juiced planeswalker for value. And, once you get to the ultimate, you don't really need to do more than one. I mean, obviously you don't ever need to do more than one dungeon to turn on all of your Urzatron of dungeon things.
Right.
But in the super long games, this can also be like a control kind of finisher.
Yeah, for me,
the +2 is very good too.
For me, I would need to know about how long it's going to take to complete a dungeon, because if it's going to take you forever and a day, this may not be that great.
Yeah.
And this walker, this walker could be very bad in that, it feels like this planeswalker was 3 mana, and they're just like, we can't give it to you with a 1 mana accelerant. We can't give it to you on turn 2. Turn 3 is fine. Turn 4, whatever. Who cares? But on the first 2 turns, you should not have a planeswalker that's venturing in the dungeons.
Look, a lot of this set is definitely form over function. This is not going to be a constructed all-star. I'm very happy that it's in the set, and I'm very happy that there is a dungeon planeswalker that does something that is like the dungeon planeswalker, and the dungeons are however they decided upon it, that it does the thing it does. But they're also very clearly cautious, which I think is correct. It could have been food all over again, right? Like, this could have gone way wrong if they were like, oh crap, one of our dungeons is completely broken, everything that ventures into it is going to be the best thing that can happen. I'm happy with this. It's not great. It's not going to be a tournament all-star.
Now, these new treatments, these showcase land frames.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. How incredible is this? Just gorgeous. Aaron, you're making the face. Aaron's making the face.
It's not for me.
It's not for her. It's not for her. Exactly.
It's fine. It's fine. This to me is just like every D&D nerd's like dream come true. Am I wrong here, Ruben? This should be
this
your
is great.
jam. 100%.
These are the original TSR adventure modules. These are the original first edition AD&D things that would come like a comic book, effectively, would get mailed to the shop, and these would be how you initially started playing Dungeons and Dragons. I think I saw this and was like, that's not a Magic card. There's no way that's a Magic card. But I'll be honest, this looks more like a Magic card than a lot of the stuff that's been put into like secret lairs. So, if you showed me this and then showed me, Heavy Metal, Anguished Unmaking or something, I'd be like, okay, I see where we're going. I get it. I like the callback. I like the reference. I am interested to see if these are going to be in foil.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be foil cover book things?
Yeah, that's now weird. As for what those foils look like and what's foiled and what's not, we don't know.
What a strange...
But, like, there's definitely going to be foils. It's just a question of what do they look like.
These are cool. I love these. I think that this is, if you're going full nostalgia on some of this stuff, like venturing into the dungeon, printing Dritzdord, and you want stuff like this.
And this is where I remarked on Twitter today where, sometimes it's good to not actually get the D&D set until 25 plus years into the game's lifespan, to the point where they have these cool showcase treatments, because 5, 6, 7 years ago we wouldn't have gotten any of this. We'd have gotten some cool cards, some cool legends that would have referenced stuff, and maybe even the dungeon stuff made it in, but again, you'd never gotten this. You'd have never gotten the book looking alt arts and stuff. Like, this is awesome. I
think it's great.
It blows me away.
And it doesn't have to be for everybody. That's the other thing. Again, very clearly, and this is also replacing the core set. Keep in mind that what we're getting instead, what we would have gotten instead of Adventures in the Forgotten Realms is, usually core set 2022, right?
Right.
Sometimes we get Magic Origins. We're very lucky when we get something that has a little bit of flavor, but usually what we get is plain mac and cheese. And this is much better than that.
I honestly, just from the retail side of it, I just wish they made more of it. Been sold out on cool stuff for a while now, and trying to get more, and it doesn't seem like it. So it's that weird point where Wizards, it kind of is treating this like a core set, and we're like, bruh, this is the D&D set. Are you serious? This thing is going to be insanely hype. It's already insanely hype. We're about to enter the most ridiculous, 9 days of spoiler territory?
It's an aggressive spoiler season.
Yeah.
It is drinking from the fire hose when the 29th is the official start and the end is July 8th. Wow. So hold on to that one. But this treatment, again, just it blows me away. Personally.
At least they put them only on lands. If they had put these on spells, or if they had done like this as like an invocation frame, I mean, I couldn't be bothered.
Yeah, so the weekly MTG showed a little bit more in terms of what these triggers for completing dungeons could look like. A Cloister Gargoyle being a white and 2 generic mana for a uncommon 0/4 artifact creature gargoyle that when it enters the battlefield, you venture into the dungeon, and as long as you've completed any dungeon, just a dungeon at all, it gets +3/+0 in flying. So at that point, a 3 mana 3/4 flyer that ventures into a dungeon is some sweet rate.
Yeah, it's a good value. And again, these are cards that, later in the game are good in multiples. They aren't overpowering early. They gain value later. I think that the gameplay with dungeons is going to be good.
Sure.
I think.
In limited, but that just means like Aaron is never going to experience this set.
Sure.
Like at all. Maybe you'll play the commander decks.
I think it has to be good in limited, and then if it's good in limited, it will sneak into constructed, or it will be good enough for constructed. And what that looks like remains to be seen, because we don't know what of the cards are going to be good enough for just a regular old constructed kind of format.
I can imagine it would be very fun to make your own dungeons at this point.
Oh, yes.
Your own custom Magic dungeons, like for your cube, for example. Venture in Dungeon, the first level makes a 3/3, and the second one draws 2 cards, and whatever. You just go completely nuts because you can, right?
Right.
That's kind of cool.
I think that sounds cool.
Yeah. But it's neat to see them sort of how they're going to use it. Dungeon crawler, Aaron, it returns back from graveyard to your hand.
To hand?
After
what is?
Yeah.
I have to complete
it's
a dungeon
2/1
just for it to go back to my hand?
It's a common. It's a common.
I'm trying.
Absolutely not.
You know what might actually be good is Pauper. I bet Pauper is going to have a dungeon deck.
It might. There's enough things that reference the dungeon. I mean, right here, the Shortcut Seeker, a 4-mana 2/5 blue creature that when it deals combat damage to a player, you venture into the dungeon. So that's kind of neat. That gives you a reason to play a 4-mana 2/5 and limited at least. Yeah. Quite interesting numbers. But again, we now know what dungeons are. We know what they do. Yes, it's kind of like weird. It's like sagas with more steps, but I'm kind of okay with that. My only concern is how insanely parasitic this is.
It's very parasitic.
They're not going to put Venture on anything else for years, probably.
Yeah, Venture into they can't just. It's not going to be a evergreen keyword like Planeswalkers, right? They're not going to make a new dungeon every set. That's a Judge Nightmare, right?
That's true.
Also, do the dungeons cycle out of Standard in 2 more years when we get another Forgotten Realms set? Do we get to still use Dungeon of the Mad Mage, or are we only going to get to use Icewind Dale? Right? Like, are we only going to get to use whatever the next dungeons are? That's super confusing.
Oh. Well, I guess we'll all get to learn it together.
We'll see. They don't care about constructed magic. So who cares?
I mean, if something's overpowered, they'll just ban it. They don't. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they mentioned that there's going to be a new enchantment subtype. That's exciting. This is from Maro's hints or whatever. A card granting -11 to -11. A creature with a death trigger that makes an equipment.
Hey,
that's pretty cool. Something only seen previously in unsets. You know how many sets you can say that about? I swear to God, there's like a dozen sets you can say only was in unsets. But yeah, all sorts of cool stuff. An artifact that's a musical instrument that creates harmony counters. Flavor me. Cool. Flavor me. Let's do this.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I do want a Yisan the Wanderer Bard reprint. That would be a good one.
Now as
There's
a
bunch
bard.
of good magic stuff.
Now
with Bard.
As a bard.
Yeah, now with Bard, exactly.
That would be fantastic.
And then what are the other creature types that are classes?
Well, Tiefling, I don't think Tiefling... You said Tiefling? Tiefling. Was that on a battle bond?
So Azra, AZRA, was a creature type in Battle Bond that were essentially devil people. Tieflings are devil people. Okay. And so they may do something with the Azra and the Tieflings to sort of change the previous Azra to just be Tieflings. Yeah.
I mean, Halflings sound fun. Legendary creature Beholder. Sure. Heyo.
Amazing.
I'm interested in that.
If only there was a legendary beholder that had a whole book about himself or whatever.
That's right.
There you go. So that'd be pretty neat.
There's a couple of Xanathar is the big one from D&D now, but there was also a couple of big beholders back in the Drizzt novels and the Icewind Dale books and all that kind of stuff too. So I want a beholder format, like a deck that is like you have to fight the beholder. That's the kind of stuff I'd love. Yeah.
Nice. Well, Matt notes on Twitter here, you don't draft dungeons. They need to be in your sealed deck pool. They will be plentiful, and you'll have access to all 3.
Okay.
Which is...
They're like tokens.
Yeah, which is cool.
Sure.
Interesting. Patrick Sullivan, at Basic Mountain on Twitter, in many ways this represents the best work play design can do. Take something conceptual and hammering on it until it comes out well. No small task here, but lots of smart people busted their butt.
Great.
Absolutely.
I typically defer to Patrick Sullivan on matters of game design in general. So if his compass says that this is going to turn out good, I will follow him until I've proven otherwise.
Dude, he notes here, sorry, the previous tweet, I actually missed that. He said, when I heard the pitch for this, I thought it was too ambitious, low level, advocated for cutting it before we got too far in. I was wrong. It turned out awesome, fun, and resonant. Kudos to the team for putting in the work here. So
cool.
I will take it. Patrick Sullivan's excited. I sure as hell am.
Great, yeah.
Very
and
nice.
It all tracks. Like, it does feel busy, but it is also conceptually, like, I don't know what I'm watching when I watch a League of Legends stream, right? Or a Battlefield stream, or a Counter-Strike stream, Evan. I don't know what I'm watching, technically speaking, but I can grok it, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, that guy is a dude with a gun who's shooting. Right. I understand what's happening, right? I'm watching League of Legends and I'm like, there's magic crap that's happening,
and there's life bars,
and that one fell over. That's probably bad for the guy that fell over. Like, conceptually, I get it.
Right.
This is conceptually, I understand it. We move the token forward like a board game. Mm-hmm. I get it. I understand what's going on.
And one of the sweetest little tidbits to come out is that the bundles, the fat packs for the D&D set are going to come with traditional D20s, not Spindowns.
Yeah, that's a nice touch. That's a good change. I've played D&D with a number of Magic players, and they roll Spindowns, and I'm like, just, you can't do that, friend. I'm sorry. It's a very pretty die that you got from the, mm-hmm. pre-release, but it's not. You can't use those.
This is one of those the important small bridges. It was important to have this detail 100%, and I am really glad they did. So that is very exciting. Let's see here. I think we covered all the things and the stuff. Let's move on here to Gathering the Townsfolk.
You actually skipped something.
Please, what did I include?
About the website that got a preview.
Oh, I'll be honest. I didn't read enough about it to want to bring it up.
Yeah,
go for it.
Who got a preview?
There was a kerfuffle this morning. One of the websites that's being given a preview card is called Cnews, and by all accounts, they're basically like the French Fox News. And so somebody had posted a tweet to Maro, to Wizards, and said, "Hey, you may want to do your research before you give this website a preview card." And this picked up quite a bit of traction. And this is feeding into a larger conversation about who's making the decisions when it comes to the community. There was some discussion last week around the Pride t-shirts about, certain people getting them as opposed to, queer creators who probably should have gotten one as well. We've seen that discussion with the preview cards of why are these people getting preview cards and not these preview cards. So this all ties into a conversation of who's making these decisions, because even just a cursory Google search could have told you that the site is up to no good. And so hopefully they, take a look at this and they fix that, because this is a little embarrassing.
Look, man, I legitimately got a little hurt when I was not included in the preview, round thing before. Sure. And, look, man, from my boy Rubes here, to not get a D&D preview, look, man, I know it's nothing personal and blah, 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 and I'm sure some PR thing did it and they got through it, but it just felt bad. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it feels bad to not get a D&D set preview card, but also, we've talked about this multiple times, that Magic Mics, we don't benefit the way that other people benefit from getting preview cards.
Well, we've also benefited enough. I mean, we're very grateful that we've received what, 20, 30 preview cards? Like, we're not starving by any means.
I'm not hurting. Also, I got to preview Bag of Holding. I'm good. All right, I got to do the first real D&D card, so it is a little surprising that the guy that made the first Magic the Gathering Dungeons and Dragons show for Wizards of the Coast, hint hint wink wink, didn't get one. But also, what am I going to do with the preview card? How is that going to benefit me more than these new younger content creators that are trying to blow up on TikTok, who are actively streaming on Twitch, who are actively making trying to make strides to get to kind of where I am already. So I'm okay with it. It's a little surprising, and I was in my feelings about it, but I'm also, ultimately, it is what it is.
Right, and I certainly understand. There's we're in a room in Wizards, and there's a round table, and they go, Magic Mike's preaches to the choir. We don't want to preach to the choir. Moving on.
Right, exactly.
Granada says,
I think you're making it sound deeper than it is. I don't think it's that.
And it might not be.
They just sort of pass judgments like that.
Sure.
If anything, I think it's closer to sort of, closing your eyes and pointing at a phone book. Remember phone books, people? Remember that when you would prank phone call somebody?
It does feel like a dartboard a lot of the time, where it's like, who are these content creators? But that's the point. Even me, someone who does a Magic news show, has not heard of some of these people. Right. Some of the people who are previewing cards are D&D content creators, which is great. My buddy B. Dave Walters has a card, and that's awesome. Getting to know who those people are, crossing those streams, great. That's awesome. People who have less than 1,000 Twitter followers, get them following on Twitch and onto their other social networks. Cool. I'm totally on board with that. It does feel random. at some points of who gets it and who doesn't, but also I'm not in the room where it happens. So,
well, Granada says, has WotC ever had to undo a preview card? I guess we're going to find out.
They have.
They definitely have.
Yeah, they definitely did. Someone years ago.
We don't have to go into detail, but
I think they did it recently. Didn't they kind of do that with Commander's Quarters, where it was like they did he request to yank it
Commander
back,
Quarters requested to not happen.
Okay, so it's happened.
But previously, there was a different content creator with the word quarters in its name.
Content creator is a strong word.
Creating the content. Here we go. All right. So beyond that, moving on here to gathering the townsfolk. Now, when the signets were first shown, it was, these signets look amazing. This is awesome. Usually Wizards puts in an extra special hidden card. They've often put in the stained glass walkers from War of the Spark. They put in other stuff from time to time, which is whatever. But this time it was like, wow, they've made 5 signets and 2 packages of 5 different signets. You'd figure the one signet that's kind of universal is the Arcane signet.
Ooh, yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, this was the most obvious plant, right? Like this had to be the card that they would put in the box, right?
Yeah, this was.
It's a very pretty version too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's going to be absolutely gorgeous, and it looks like Ultra Pro uploaded the playmat I'm sure by mistake or whatever, and accidentally showed this incredible piece of artwork, which would make an amazing signet.
My god!
Right, and we spoke about the super drop stuff last week. I assure you, there's boxes back here on my shelf. And
does it have all the mocks? So there's the sapphire, there's the ruby, there's the jet
in the middle,
and then the pearls are on top.
On top. Oh, it's gorgeous.
Layers,
absolutely incredible. So look, the secret lair stuff. Throw it in the closet. Get it. If you can afford it, throw it in the closet. Let's talk in a couple years.
Especially this one, because every commander deck has a command tower.
Oh, the pearls on the bottom. I thought the pearls were the 2 things on the top. Okay, good eye.
Oh, the pearls draw. Oh, you see it down there at the bottom.
Cropped out of the playmat here.
Oh,
that's unfortunate.
Is beautiful. But still, that's gorgeous.
Yeah. This is a beautiful piece. Fantastic. And again, if that is your bonus for buying these, that's incredible. So
the bonus is better than any of the 5 that you get.
Between the fact that they're all etched foils, and you got the special one, and the Praetors are only $30, which is insane. This ridiculous. So more power to them. They're tweaking they're tweaking the secret layers to what you want as a player. I get it, and
they're honing it, which is helpful.
And they seem to be doing a good job. If your goal is getting people excited and making sales, I'm ready to throw some money at them. Like, if I got it, here you go. Give me the little box of stuff, and I'll throw it in the closet with the rest of them. There you go. All right. So that was a super cool thing to learn. There was a Love Your LGS promotion that showed up on the Wizards Play Network website. It's going to be a promotion that continues July 23rd in the U.S. This is where they're going to start giving out foil retro frame stuff. Let me bring some up here.
Beautiful.
It's gorgeous. I love it.
This is the clearest, most important thing for LGSs, certainly since the pandemic began, and possibly since the CEO changeover, to give stores something important value to get people to come in.
Well, the Fabled Passage promo was a good start.
That's what I'm saying. The Fabled Passage specifically. They need to do it for things like that. Cards like Arcane Signet, right? Ubiquitous cards. And it's free value. It's literally free real estate for you as a player to do this. And I think it's a great way to encourage people to go to your local game store.
From July 23rd, stores can give out one of these fan favorite foil retro frame promos for each event entry to keep your customers coming back for more. This is Aven Mind Sensor, Dig Through Time, Bolas' Citadel, Goblin Guide, and Scavenging Ooze.
Cool.
Wow. These are all first-time Old Border, I think, if I'm not incorrect on that one.
I think so, yeah.
And they are absolutely gorgeous. And if this is getting butts and seats, high five.
I feel like you were mentioning that like how many of these is going to be a problem?
Well, no, that was the question. It was the number of Fabled Passages they were going to give to stores I was concerned about. But they did actually provide a fairly large amount to each store, and there was no problem with that at all. And Wizards did a hell of a thing, and, thanks, it was awesome. Let's run this back. This promotion sounds fantastic. They did a great job there. The Mystery Booster Convention Edition arrives on August 20th. I have no idea how much we're going to get of this stuff. It's going to be absolutely sizzling hot. Those playtest cards are worth $1 bajillion. This is not going to impact their value at all, I'm guessing. Maybe a little tiny bit. But
it'll encourage people to go to the local game store. And that's the important part. All of these are really clever ways for Wizards to encourage people to go to their FLGS instead of going to Target or Walmart or whatever, where the cards are locked up behind glass now anyway. Thanks, Logan Paul or whoever. And encourage, the camaraderie and the community.
Absolutely. And so they mentioned here, sort of the last bit is, if you can reach premium status for your store by July 22nd, you'll get a exclusive Ampersand cards. This is the D&D Ampersand on top of the foil of every rare and mythic in the set. You'll get 2 copies of every rare and mythic in it with an all-new treatment not found elsewhere in the set. The D&D Ampersand and a glossy, transparent overlay on the front of each card. Let me tell you, these are going to be rare. I mean, rare. There will exist 12 of each of these rares, or I guess there will be 2 of each of these times the store. So there'll be 12 of each rare and mythic in Ampersand in Florida.
Right.
The state.
The state will have a dozen Ampersand Tiamats.
That's it. That's all. The end. So, that's incredibly rare. You got to imagine these premium stores out here and who has access to it and who can sell it. It's very similar to the premium Commander Green edition thing that they did.
Yeah,
that was only.
It sounds like the States Edition Doran problem and the States Edition Mutavault problem, where they just didn't make any of them, and so they were all $700. It's what this sounds like to me. They're also going to print them later, one assumes, like they're doing with convention edition stuff, but
I don't know when you're going to get them, but ultimately, and it's sort of 2 of it. It's really hard to be premium. I assure you, it's really difficult to get premium status. And
I've seen people say there's 0 in my state, there's 0 in my country in the chat. It's hard to get premium status for sure.
Right. So this is, you're getting 2 copies of every rare, mythic rare. That's awesome. So in some ways, it's going to help the stores just cash in. They can just sell them or whatever. They can use them for events if they want to. They can use them to reward customers who are awesome customers. They can do whatever they want to with them, which is fantastic, and just another way of saying, thanks for putting in the effort and jumping through the hoops, and you got to send them videos and you got to show them everything you're doing and everything's set up, and they're thorough, I assure you. But that's great. So again, these are going to be stupid rare, but that's a good thing in many ways for the stores who are getting them. So let's see here, what else we got here. We love your LGS. The return of the local game store stuff and happening, so show up to that. The Magic Online Champions Showcase. Aaron, do you know anything about what's going on here?
I sure don't.
I know about even less. I know that season 1, there's a $70,000 prize pool, which is pretty cool.
Okay, so this, if I'm understanding this correctly, this is the Magic Online series, if you get through... So let me just take a look here. Some of these names look really familiar. So Vintage Champion, Standard Champion from Season 1. Okay, so the way the Magic Online competitive play works is you earn enough QPs to qualify for a showcase event. If you do well in the showcase, you move on to the showcase qualifier. And then from that pool, I think it gets down to 8 people. And then those 8 people play. And I think the winner gets to move on to this. So you'll notice that each one has one format. So the Vintage Champion, the Standard Champion, Limited, and then that feeds into this. And so our Vintage guy is Slasher21, who we know and we love from the Vintage Discord. And so he is now moving on to this event, and then this happens every season. So this season will then feed into the next one, and yeah, this is starting to make sense now. Okay.
Nice. the fact of the matter is, this is the most premier level Magic event happening this summer, right?
Happening for a while. There's going to be some sort of MPL thing going on, I think.
Is there?
Maybe.
I don't know.
But look, we're playing for 70 grand. You get 5 grand just for showing up. If you show up and bomb out of the Modern Horizons 2 draft, you still 5 grand up. That's still fantastic. Because
you've already won a tournament to get into this smaller tournament.
Exactly.
So this is exciting. I think that this is a pretty cool event. We have some there's at least one name I don't recognize amongst the casters, but we have Maria Bartholdi, Emma Handy, Marshall Sutcliffe, joined by Anurag Das, who one assumes is a online Magic Online streamer.
No, he's a streamer, but he's also a legacy, well-known legacy player.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. And you can also co-stream the event if you're interested, as you can with many of Magic's events. And I love the co-streamed events for Magic Online more than I like the co-streamed events for Magic Arena. It's a more pleasing visual experience for me or auditory experience for me for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why, but I do enjoy that aspect.
Yeah, so there's a schedule of upcoming events. If you want to be involved in these, again, you can jump right in. That's the beauty of Magic Online.
Yeah, I actually really like the Magic Online system. I've qualified for a showcase at various points. I've never made it to the showcase qualifier, but I like the system. I like the way the QPs work. I think for me, it's a lot easier to understand. And so I'm actually trying to qualify. There's 2 more vintage showcases. There's one in mid-July, and then there's one in early August. So I'm about a third of the way there of getting my QPs, so I would like a seat at the table, and hopefully I can get there.
Yeah, and once again, in the Magic Online Redemption Tour, I know how to get to this event. I know how to qualify for this event. The roadmap is clear. MPL, I could be in it and have no idea.
The nice thing about the Magic Online system is you're also not locked into playing one format. Like, you can get QPs from any format. So it used to be that you were locked into format points, which was very challenging. But now it's like, if you're playing Modern and you're suddenly not doing well in Modern, you can take your ball and play elsewhere, and those QPs are interchangeable. So I really like that. So you can play Sealed, you can play Vintage, you can play Modern or Legacy or Pioneer or what. Pioneer, maybe not so much, but it really is whatever you want to play. You're not really locked into, I have to draft for the next 2 months. No, go play whatever you want to play. Pauper, yes.
Pauper, sure, let's do it, absolutely. And if you need to rent a deck, cardhoarder.com is there for you.
Absolutely.
This is also the first high-level limited event I've seen in a very long time, which is also just, noteworthy.
It's also nice, good to see, Emma Handy had announced that she had been working on the Modern Cube. The Modern Cube is coming back to Magic Online. Don't worry, Aaron's not playing it. And we're just spitting truth. But it's really cool to see Emma, designing the cube. I hope it does well, and she gets some great feedback from it.
She's the arbiter of cubes now too. Like, she's really going to be like the cube person, right?
Good.
Oh,
somebody
fantastic.
needs to be. Somebody needs to be driving the bus.
Can someone drive the bus in the arena one? Because
I was just going to say, as we saw with the arena train wreck,
you're so mad
someone
about that.
needs to be in charge. So
I love that format. You know how much I love Cube? You know how much over the years I have cubed? I've talked about cubing. I've read Cube articles. I've paid people to write about Cube. I've wrote about Cube myself. I put thousands of dollars into my own Cube. And to have a Cube that was so unfun and so clearly unfun in so many ways, it hurts my soul. It hurts my soul.
Yeah, it's such a bad Cube.
That was to Fairy's tutelage. How dare you? First of all, how dare you? God. All right. Moving on here. Something you'll hear more about from us as we move forward here. There is going to be a new Cubeamajigs Series 2 coming. All sorts of really cool products from the peeps at Cubeamajigs. I'm bringing this up here on the screen for a second.
Cubeamajigs is dangerous. Even just looking at the site, like, oh my God. Like, I love tokens. I actually have to organize my tokens one of these days. But yeah, Cubeamajigs is one of those sites where I always just tell myself I'm going to look around, and all of a sudden I'm leaving with like $30 of random tokens I will never use. But damn it, they're pretty, and I felt something in the moment, and it's dangerous.
The initial Cubeamajigs product line sold like gangbusters, sold like hotcakes. Now we have new art. we don't know a lot of the details as it's going to be launched soonish.
Right.
But even just this one hype image is it's pretty great. I mean,
it looks
it's
pretty dope.
It's a proven product.
Right.
And we're going to get a second version.
I love super niche products for the very small sliver of Magic players who need them, but by God, they want them and they need them, and here they are. So we'll hear more about that.
Also a good thing to keep your business cards in.
It's true. For those who are interested, there is a new Twitter account called MTG Spoiler Bot from April King, who finds spoilers and pops them on there. I looked. There wasn't the newest spoilers on there. It feels like Mythic Spoiler still has the speed in terms of who gets them up fastest, but I'll take any new outlet from a new outlet, sure.
I know that Scryfall and, of course, now MTG Spoiler Bot are a little bit pickier as to which sources. I think that they try to verify sources before they post, so it's not surprising that Magic Spoiler or Mythic Spoiler beats them to the punch.
Right. I mean, there's a certain level of you're running a spoiler site or a spoiler list, and Wizards is running their weekly stream. Do you screenshot it off their stream and resize it and upload it to your blah blah blah? Do you do all that stuff, or you just wait for Wizards to update their site, which is every day at 11 a.m. Eastern or whatever it is? Moving on. But either way, that's an option for you if you want one. Move on, to some desperate ravings. All sorts of cool stuff came from Sheldon this week. Sheldon Menery talking about Commander.
Yeah, so Sheldon posted an article talking about his top 5 current Commander concerns, and it got a lot of people talking. I love Commander, but the girls are always fighting. Like, every time I turn around, there's something going on in the Commander community. I don't understand it. I'm usually not privy to it, but I usually end up catching, the backlash to the backlash. So, but I do find it fascinating nonetheless. And Commander's in a very interesting place right now. We've said it before. Excuse me. It's getting bigger and bigger, and it's trying to include so many people. And then, how do you do that? And so his main things that he was kind of concerned about, the first thing he was talking about was the decay of other formats and whether or not Vintage and Legacy, formats that are considered to be dying, is there going to be an exodus of players from those formats to come to Commander, and what is the impact of that going to be? Right. The next thing he was concerned about was excessive ramp of, people are running too much ramp, and it's not that he's saying that ramp is the issue, but too much of it, and so he's kind of, asking people to kind of rethink the way they build their decks. And I've seen that before too, of, should you be running more ramp, should you be running more draw? It's a fascinating debate. Next thing he talks about is homogenization. When he talks about sites like EDHREC and the explosion of Commander content, there's nothing wrong with either of those things, but it does sort of exacerbate the problem of, people wanting to do what people tell them to do, as opposed to, going through the bulk rare box yourself and finding cool cards that you like. And so the next thing he's talking about is the reserve list, and then he mentions fast mana, which is another thing as well. The thing I really, really, really like that he mentioned is the lack of interaction, which is rich coming from me, because have you seen the decks that I play? But I've had that problem in Commander, where I find myself often in what's called the babysitter role, where player A will be doing something stupid, and then I'll look at the other two and I'm like, are you two going to help me? And they're like, we don't really run answers. And I'm like, great, so it's just me. This is fun. And so yeah, I'm a big fan of answers. So if we can make answers in Commander a thing again, I'm on board with that. So I really liked Sheldon's article. I really like that Sheldon is making an effort to reach out to people. He even put something on the official Commander Reddit. He appeared in a video today talking about the LGBT community, which was really great. And so he is trying, and it does sound like the rules committee wants to make Commander better and keep Commander great, and I just hope they're able to do that.
Yeah, I think that two big things stuck out to me. One was the homogenization problem, which took a while. It took a long time before Commander got to a homogenization problem, but now, of course, partially because Wizards is now designing more for Commander, partially just because everything is, the internet exists, but the internet existed then, when Commander was young. So it's taken a long time before Commander's gotten to the net decking, right? Remember that word? The net decking point? And so there is still something to be discovered. There's still cards out there that are undiscovered gems, in diamonds in the rough kind of things. The other one for me for Commander is the answer's problem. I play an Arcades the Strategist deck, and I used to be super cautious to have a way to protect Arcades the turn I played it. Now I just run it out on turn 3 because no one's going to kill it. No one cares about what anyone else is doing until turn 5. No one cares. It's amazing. It's a little sad. I remember I was at the Command Zone house for a game night. This was right when I first moved to LA, and I apologize, I forget the gentleman's name, but the guy that won the fan video to appear on game nights had like this briefcase full of Commander decks, and I was borrowing Shu Yun, the Silent Prophet, and I was sitting there not wanting to play my Shu Yun in order to protect it. And he was like, why don't you just play it? I was like, well, I need to protect it, don't I? He's like, I mean, I usually just run it out there. Really? A deck designed to one-shot you. You can just go land Shu Yun, go, no protection, and you can expect to just kill somebody the next turn with it? That's shocking. Yeah. So I do think that there is a bit of a problem with that kind of...
I mean, you're starting to see it with ADHRec.com, which has the ability to kind of spider out and say, not only do we analyze all these decks, all these different cards, we look at like the keywords and what are the cards, what are the cards actually doing, and these are other cards that tangentially relate to that, and it kind of webs them all together. So the homogenization kind of happens by default in many ways.
I don't think it's that. I think, you make a conscious choice to, I've always thought of Commander as being a casual format. There are no prizes here. And so, I'm not I don't play fetches, for example. The only fetches I run are like Evolving Wilds and Terran Morph, maybe a Fabled Passage. But, does your play group really require this optimized thing? Or, can you sort of screw around and play a Clue Stone as opposed to an Arcane Signet? And so, I don't really have the answer to that necessarily, but I do think it's an interesting discussion point. I do think that the format is very much at a crossroads, and I'm interested to see where people go from here. And, just to kind of bring up something Pharmacist Judge said, it's not that Commander decks need ramp. I think the question is, what is the sweet spot of ramp that you should be running? No one's really sure of the exact formula, and Lord knows we've seen different takes on what the formula should be. I think Sheldon is saying that people might be leaning a little too much on ramp, where I think for me, I typically run 14 pieces of ramp, maybe. And I think there are some people that might be going a little harder than that. And so just kind of gently questioning, like, do you really need that? Or could you stand to put some more card draw in? Or maybe you could stand to put a board wipe in there and, not taking those things personally as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. He mentions time creep, and time creep being things like, sort of the definitive critical turn. What's the turn when everything starts to go insane? Is it 7 or 8, or is it 4 or 5? And Wizards, over time, we continue to make the bar lower for a bigger and better effect. And that's going to continue to happen because, Wizards is now a part of Hasbro and they need to make money. But, at the same time, you don't want them to go too fast because you can only make one Jeweled Lotus. You can't make the Jeweled Lotus plus that makes 4 mana out of nowhere, right?
Give it time.
I mean, I'm just saying.
You can do that, and then it won't leave your mana pool on Magic Online.
I'm just saying he wrote a whole thing about, fast mana might be scary. It was on, help make Commander Legends. No. That's all I'm saying. Just kind of silly. But, I agreed the idea that, things are going insane on turn 4 and turn 5. Not that great for a multiplayer format. Could go to turn 8, turn 7, whatever. Moving on here. Pauper kind of sucks right now.
Yeah.
Now, Pauper has kind of sucked in many ways, or a few ways, throughout the years.
I didn't understand, I looked at this chart, and I'm looking at it now, and, where's it? I still see other decks performing. What's the issue here?
The issue is that it falls off a cliff, essentially, after the first 3 decks.
No, it doesn't.
The first 4 decks are arguable. Let me bring this up on the screen so you guys can check it out. Nerdtothecore.com.
Nice. 80% of the format is 3 decks.
Where are you seeing?
Affinity, Storm, and Dimir Tempo.
Where are you seeing 80?
Affinity is 30% of the metagame. Storm is 25% of the metagame, and Dimir is 50% of the... I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong stats. It's let me see here, hold on. Affinity is 40% of the metagame, Storm is 20% of the metagame, and Dimir stuff is 20%
Where are you seeing
of the metagame.
40?
I'm counting up the number, like, I'm just going by the numbers I'm seeing in the wins column and the volume column.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So, like ultimately, right, when you see the wins of 50 and Scrollstorm gets 23 and Dimir Fairies get 18 and Dimir Delver gets 10, Dimir Fairies and Dimir Delver
I think Dimir Fairy, exactly. So you go from a 58, 31, 30, so 58, 34, 31, 10, right? It drops way off, and the remainder of decks, Wildfire, Izzet, Tron, Burn, Pestilence, Elves, does not add up to the top 3 decks in the format.
Right.
I think that's a little awkward.
Well, you also provide them Mox Monkey.
I don't think Dredge's good at math.
Oh, sure. Well, look, they gave them Mox Monkey, and then they gave them artifact lands that are indestructible. So, like... Yeah.
They also gave them Chatterstorm. And Chatterstorm needs to go. Like, obviously,
Chatterstorm is gross. Like, first day of school plus Chatterstorm can kill you out of nowhere.
That sounds amazing.
And that's gross. So, like, it's one of those things where, you know, we get it, and Modern Horizons 2 push boundaries, and this is what happens, and now the format's weird. Wizards has very little reason to care about Pauper, quite frankly. There's nothing really attached to it big.
Gavin Verhey did show up in the Discord and do a Q&A, and, you know, they did eventually answer the Blue Monarch problem, so I wouldn't say... I'm just saying they don't care at all.
What I'm saying is they have no reason specifically.
I don't know. You seem to operate in these absolutes that, like, Wizards is just either for something or against something, and I don't think it's that black and white. I think that, you know, these cards have not been out for very long. I think it's reasonable to see if the market will fix itself, so to speak. And if they feel that people have truly exhausted their options and that what they're trying is not working, I think they're going to take action, which I think makes sense.
And they've banned Storm cards before, definitely. Empty the Warrens is not a legal card.
I think they are 100% going to ban Chatterstorm. But I also think that they will ban something out of Affinity and out of the Dimir something. Like, it's going to be the new better Mirror Enforcer and something out of Dimir.
Probably. Right.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where, you know, again, the metagame has essentially gotten very stale. You play one of those 3 decks, or you play something that hopes to do well against one of those 3 decks, but you're probably going to play one of those 3 decks, and if your deck isn't as good, in a world of Pauper, you know, the power level is only so high, there's not a lot of sweepers, there's not a ton of answers, and particularly to Storm, there's just no, like, common Storm hate thing. There's no Flusterstorm at Common, right? Like, there's no way you can just shut down that deck at Common, and that's unfortunate. And I totally understand why that exists, but it's also frustrating for a format to have to deal with it, as it were. All right, let's turn the corner here to the finisher. Well, look, new mechanics are always exciting, especially when they come with new game pieces. We're now getting Dungeons and Magic, and they are just the tip of the iceberg for what is possible for the new card type. Which got me thinking, once we delve deep past the Lost Mine of Fandolver, the Tomb of Annihilation, and the Dungeon of the Mad Mage, what other dungeons are you looking forward to exploring, Ruben?
Well, I'm a huge movie buff, and with the sets and products that crossover IPs providing super popular products like Secret Lair of the Walking Dead and the upcoming Warhammer 40k products, I'm excited for some new dungeons from those brands. A Stranger Things Upside Down, perhaps. A Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Or, of course, the most dangerous dungeon of them all, the Great British Baking Show.
Oh my god, yes, Soggy Bottoms! Let's do it!
The first room is make a food token.
Nice.
The second room is also make a food token.
Mel and Sue could be partners.
Yep.
That would be great.
Sure.
Very nice. Aaron?
Well, delving into the depths of the deepest, darkest dungeons is something I take in stride every day. So I would love to see a new dungeon taking adventurers into the most dangerous lair in the world, Journey to the Bottom of Twitter.com.
Oof.
And not the bottoms, because I've been there.
Right.
First thing you do is make a food token. All right.
Well, yeah, only if you're a millennial.
There you go.
Or Gen Z.
Look, traveling through the frightening unknown, avoiding traps, solving puzzles, and arriving at a treasure is something I have had a ton of experience with myself in a previous life a long time ago in a terrifying land far, far away. The most frightening challenge for anyone alive in this day and age is trying to get approved for a bank loan in 2021.
Oof.
Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah.
Too real.
Yep. First room. Get a food token. And that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me, and free Britney.
Hashtag free Britney.
Hashtag free Britney. Absolutely.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you. Happy Pride. Have a good weekend, everybody.
We'll move here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, CardHoarder.com, and Alter Sleeves. Use the code MagicMics on AlterSleeves.com. My co-hosts, Aaron Camel and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching or listening. I hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, Twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.